Today's lesson we're going to talk about special angle pairs. And first angle pair we're going to talk about are called complementary angles. So complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So for instance, if we have a right angle and two angles, total those, an example would be one's 40 and one's 50. 40 plus 50 would be 90. Those two angles are complementary. The next pair we have are called supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180. Alright? So we know 180 degrees is a straight angle, so if two angles add up to 180, they're called supplementary. For instance, this angle is 100, this angle would be 80, totaling 180 degrees. Next we have vertical angles. Okay, now vertical angles are created by two intersecting lines. Okay, so if we intersect two lines, that creates four angles. And the vertical angles are the ones that are across from each other. Okay, so angles 1 and 2, those total 180, so those are supplementary. Angles 1 and 3 would be vertical, and same thing with angles 2 and 4. Those are called vertical angles. Okay. Next thing we have is called a theorem. Okay, a theorem is basically a law in geometry that has to be proven. Okay, it has to be proven true. All right. So it's a little different than a postulate. Postulate is an accepted statement of fact. Theorem is a statement that has to be proven true. All right. Now our first theorem we're going to talk about is called the vertical angle theorem. Vertical angle theorem states that vertical angles are congruent. Okay. So basically what happens is if we have vertical angles, let's say we have this angle is 50. Okay. And how that's proven is if this angle is 50, then this angle next to it, okay, would be supplementary with that 50 degrees, making this 130 degrees. Okay. The next pair are supplementary also. Okay, so if this angle's 130, then the angle next to it would also be 50. Alright? And then back to 130. So now you can see that vertical angles, no matter what, are always going to be congruent because they're supplementary with the same angle. Alright? Next thing we're going to talk about some examples here. We have supplementary angles. We're going to try to find an angle that's supplementary to angle AOD. Here's angle AOD right here, and that would be this entire angle. And together with that angle, we're going to find an angle that is going to add up to 180 with it. Okay, so one of our possible answers will be this angle right here, angle AOB. You can see if I highlight that angle, AOB and AOD together total 180. So angle AOB would be one possibility. And we also have angle DOC. This angle as well is going to be supplementary with that other angle. Okay, next we're going to talk about complementary angles. So we're looking for an angle that's complementary to angle EOD, which is this 60-degree angle right here. And the only angle we have to pick would be this angle right here, angle DOC. So angle DOC plus angle DOE is going to give you a 90-degree angle right here, and that makes them complementary. Alright, finally we're going to talk about vertical angles. We want to identify a pair of vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles are created by two intersecting lines. So I see two intersecting lines right here, line AC and line BD. So that means this angle AOB and angle DOC, this angle right here is right across from it, would be one pair of vertical angles. The other one would be the other side of the diagram. These two right here are vertical angles, so that's angle AOD and angle BOC. Those are both pairs of vertical angles. Next, we're going to talk about what we can take away from diagrams. So here's another diagram, and we want to see what conclusions we can make based on what's given to us in the diagram. First thing I notice is that angle 1 and 2 are congruent because they're marked congruent. So that's one fact we can write about that. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Okay? All right. Next thing I notice here is angle 1 and 4. Those are vertical angles. All right. So I know vertical angles are congruent. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. Now since angle 1 and angle 4, or I'm sorry, angle 1 is partners with 2 and 4. That makes angle 2 congruent to angle 4 through the transitive property. So angle 2 is the same measure as angle 4. There's a lot of other things that we can pull out of this diagram. For instance, I know angle 4 and 5 are supplementary, so I know angle 4 plus angle 5 is going to add up to 180. Okay. Same thing with angle 5 and 1. Okay. Angle 5 plus angle 1 are going to add up to 180 because they make a straight line. And those are just a few of the conclusions that you can draw from this particular diagram. Okay, lastly, we're going to talk about applying these facts about these angle pairs, and we're going to try to set up some equations and solve for x for these diagrams. So number 5, one angle here is labeled 3x and 2x. Okay, these two angles are going to be adding up to 90 degrees. So these are complementary angles. So I know that the one angle 3x plus the other angle 2x both add up to 90 degrees. So that's how we're going to set up our equation. So if I combine like terms, we'll get 5x equals 90, and we can divide by 5, and in this case, x would equal 18. For number 6, all right, these two angles here, all right, they're going to add up to a straight line, so I know these are supplementary angles. All right, so my equation would be 12x minus 15 plus the other angle, 3x plus 45, equals 180. So that's how we're going to set up our equation for this problem. We're going to combine like terms here. 12x and 3x gives me 15x. Negative 15 and positive 45 gives me positive 30 equals 180. We're going to subtract 30 from both sides. So 15x would give you 150. And divide by 15, x would be 10 in this case. And the last set of examples here, or last example number 7, these two angles are created by two intersecting lines. They're across from each other, so these are vertical angles. All right, these are vertical angles, so I know vertical angles are equal, so my equation would be x plus 10 equals 4x minus 35. So I can solve this for x. I'm going to bring this x over. I'm going to subtract x. That gives me 3x over here, and I will add 35 to both sides. That gives me 45 over here, and divide by 3. And in this case, x would be 15. So to review here, our special angle pairs. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90. Supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180. And vertical angles are always going to be equal to each other.